The moon kept its coldest secret in the dark. For centuries, Earth's poets had called it barren, a tomb of dust and silence. They did not know about the lithium veins, not then, not until the fusion reactors began to starve and humanity's gaze turned desperate and the drills came. Beneath Shackleton Crater's eternal shadows, the ice slept, a frozen ocean older than cities, older than wars. The lunar colonists called it sangreal, a holy grail of oxygen and fuel. But when Earth's satellites mapped the lithium beneath it, glowing like a radioactive nervous system, the ice became collateral, a footnote in ledgers penned by men who would never feel lunar frost crack their bones. They sent an engineer, a man who carried Mars in his nightmares and lithium in his instruments. They sent a strategist, a woman who measured lives in water quotas and reactor cycles. Together, they stood at the edge of light and vacuum, their boots sinking into regolith that remembered impacts older than life itself. The lithium sang to them, it always did, a siren call of clean energy, of cities reborn in fusion fire. But the ice, when it wept in geysers of superheated vapor. It did not care about Earth's hunger. Some secrets are not meant to be mined. Some choices etch themselves into history not with grand speeches, but with the quiet scuff of a pressure suit against stone, the flicker of a hand hesitating over a detonator switch. The moon watched as it always had. Its craters were graves, its shadows judges. And deep in the dark, the ice waited to see what the humans would become. Chapter 1. The drill's whine echoed through the ice like a trapped animal. Darian Veth crouched in the shadow of the bore machine, his breath fogging the visor of his thermal suit. The readout on his wrist flickered, a jagged spike in conductivity. He leaned closer to the freshly cut borehole, the ice beneath his gloves glinting with the pale blue sheen of ancient water. But it was not water that quickened his pulse now. Lithium. The sensor's graph trembled, its peaks clawing upward. A vein thicker than any Earthside simulation had predicted, laced through the crater's frozen mantle like a luminous nerve. His throat tightened. 10 years since the Mars catastrophe. 10 years of Earth's scorn, of half-lit habitation units and the metallic tang of recycled air. This discovery could rewrite his name. He did not notice the ice shuddering beneath his boots until the comms crackled. Veth returned to the hub. The voice was a blade, Zinnia Sol, Artemis 9's resource strategist. She spoke as though words were rationed, each syllable a bullet. Darian scowled at the borehole. He had not asked for her oversight, this woman who policed the colony's balance sheets like a nun guarding sacramental wine. The survey is incomplete, he said. His own voice sounded alien to him, roughened by weeks of solitude in the tunnels. The survey is terminated. Your seismic charges have destabilized Sector 7. A lie, he had calibrated the charges himself, precise as a surgeon's scalpel. Yet the ice groaned again, a low tectonic sigh that vibrated through his bones. Reluctantly, he sealed the borehole and turned toward the airlock. The colony hub hummed with the sterile urgency of all lunar habitats. Darian peeled off his suit in the decon chamber, the sweat cooling on his neck. Through the observation pane, he watched Zinnia Sol pace the command deck. Her fingers danced across holographic reports, her posture rigid as the carbon fiber struts overhead. She wore her black hair shorn close to the scalp, a practicality that somehow sharpened her features into something weapon-like. She did not look up when he entered. Your methods endanger structural integrity. Her eyes remained fixed on the shimmering data. The ice here is not dead regolith. It breathes, it remembers. Darian flexed his hands, still stiff from the suit's gloves. You lecture me on geology. I have mined 6 worlds. And buried a team on 1. The words hung in the recycled air. Darian's jaw clenched. He could still smell the Martian dust storm, feel the suit's oxygen alarm screaming in his ears as the HAB module collapsed. Zinnia finally turned, her gaze unflinching. Your lithium would buy Earth a decade of fusion power, but the extraction process would vaporize the crater's ice reserves within 2 years. No water, no air, no colony. Earth has billions starving in the dark. You hoard ice like a dragon. We are not a warehouse, her voice lowered, almost imperceptibly. We are a community, my community. A chime interrupted them, a priority alert from Earthside. Zinnia's lips thinned as she scanned the message. Darian glimpsed the emblem of the Global Energy Directorate before she flicked the screen to privacy mode. They will override you, he said. She stood, her movements precise, controlled. You mistake me for someone who begs for permission. The lights flickered, a low klaxon began to pulse. The solar flare struck an hour later. Darian was in the mess hall, picking at a tray of algae protein when the gravity shifted. Not the familiar lunar lightness, but a queasy tilt, as though the station were a ship listing in dark seas. Emergency seals slammed shut, trapping a junior engineer mid-sentence. The kid's eyes widened, his words dissolving into static as the comms failed. Zinnia's voice cut through the chaos, cold and clear on the backup channel. All personnel to storm shelters. Reactor coolant breach in Sector 3. Darian was already moving. He knew the sound of disaster, the way metal screamed before it broke. The reactor's failure would freeze them within hours, turning Artemis 9 into a tomb of frost and corpses. He found her in the lower engineering bay, her hands flying across the fried circuitry of a pressure regulator. The room stank of ionized air. Behind her visor, sweat gleamed on her brow. The magnetic couplers are fused, she said, not looking up. Without coolant, the reactor goes critical in 40 minutes. He knelt beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. She stiffened but did not pull away. The primary coolant line is ruptured, he said. It must be patched externally. Her eyes met his. For the first time, he saw the fracture in her certainty, a flicker of dread. EVA during a solar storm was suicide. Radiation levels would shred their suits within minutes. I will go, she said. You will die. And you will not. He almost smiled. Here, at last, was a calculus they shared. The crater's surface was a howling void. Darian's boots sank into the dust as he crawled toward the coolant line's breach. The storm's static hissed in his ears, a white noise dirge. Behind him, Zinnia's suit lamp wavered like a dying star. They worked in silence, their gloves fumbling with the patch kit. The ruptured line spewed supercooled liquid into the vacuum, the spray freezing instantly into diamond shards. Darian's visor darkened against the glare, his fingers numbed. Move faster. The ice shelf above them groaned. Zinnia's head snapped up. Retreat now. He did not argue. They lunged backward as the shelf collapsed, a slow-motion avalanche of primordial ice. Zinnia's hand closed around his wrist, yanking him behind a boulder. The debris shattered against the rock, peppering his visor with fractures. Your helmet, her voice crackled, compromised. Radiation warnings blared. Darian's vision blurred. He felt her hands on his emergency seal, heard the hiss of her secondary oxygen feed engaging. Her face filled his visor, her breath fogging the glass. Breathe, do not stop breathing. He wanted to laugh, a resource strategist, wasting air on a disgraced engineer. But her eyes held no pity, only the cold fury of someone who refused to lose. They limped back to the airlock as the storm crested. The colony's lights burned dim through the ice-caked viewports. Zinnia cycled the lock with ritual slowness, her gloves trembling. In the decon chamber, she peeled off her helmet. A thin trail of blood ran from her nose, black in the UV light. "You should not have done that," Darian said, "sharing your oxygen." She wiped the blood away with a stained sleeve. "You are a fool, but useful fools are rare." He studied her, the taut line of her shoulders, the way her throat moved when she swallowed. She was wrong. She had not saved him. She had tested him, and he, against every instinct, had let her. Alone in his bunk later, he pressed his palms to the cold bulkhead. The reactor's hum had steadied. Somewhere above, Earth hung like a tarnished jewel, its wars and hunger reduced to a silent glow. Zinnia's words returned to him, "We are not a warehouse." For the first time in a decade, Darian Veth dreamed of something other than Mars. Chapter 2. The lithium dust glowed faintly under Darian's ultraviolet lamp, a constellation trapped in ice. He scraped another sample into the vial, the mineral's spectral shimmer at odds with the jagged scars on his gloves. 2 weeks had passed since the solar flare, since Zinnia Sol's blood had smeared black across her sleeve. The colony's walls still hummed with the aftershocks of that near disaster, a tremor beneath every footstep. Earth's ultimatum had arrived at dawn. Darian read the transmission twice, the words searing through him. Comply or face embargo. Lithium extraction authorized under Directive 709. The Global Energy Directorate's seal pulsed like a dead star at the bottom of the screen. He crushed the tablet's edge, his reflection warping in its glass. 10 years ago, he would have laughed at their threats. 10 years ago, he still believed guilt could be outrun. The lab door hissed open. Zinnia stood silhouetted against the corridor's pallid light, her shadow slicing across the ice core maps plastered on the walls. She carried a slate in one hand, her knuckles whitened around its frame. "You have seen the message." Her voice lacked its usual edge, worn smooth by sleeplessness. "They will send their own teams," Darian said. "Rip the lithium out by its roots." "They will fail." She stepped into the lamplight, her eyes reflecting the vial's eerie glow. The primary vein is interwoven with cryovolcanic vents. Brutal extraction triggers eruptions. Ice becomes vapor. Pressure builds until Artemis 9 becomes a crater within a crater. He rotated the vial, watching dust settle. "You have an alternative." A beat of silence. The air recycler's whine climbed an octave. "A secondary deposit." Zinnia activated her slate, projecting a hologram above the workbench. The topography was unfamiliar, jagged hollows snaking beneath Mare Ingenii's basin. A lava tube, collapsed millennia ago. Seismic scans suggest lithium concentrated in its lower chambers. Darian leaned closer. The formation resembled a fossilized lung, its bronchial passages choked with rubble. Unstable. One wrong charge, the entire tube implodes. "Yes," she met his gaze, "but far from our ice reserves, contained destruction." He almost admired her cold calculus. Sacrifice a dead lava tube to spare the living ice. A surgeon's choice, cutting away rotten flesh to save the body. His fingers twitched toward the hologram, its blue light staining his scars. "Why show me this?" "Your thermal siphon design." Her thumb brushed the slate, enlarging a schematic. It could extract lithium without explosives, if modified. The air thinned. Darian tasted copper, memory of the Martian drill prototype that had cracked open permafrost and lungs. The siphon requires a controlled heat source. Your lava tube is a tomb of fractured rock, one tremor. Earth's teams arrive in 14 days. Zinnia's voice dropped, a blade against stone. "I can delay them, misdirect reports, but only if we provide proof of non-viability at the primary site." He laughed, a hollow sound. You want me to sabotage my own discovery. I want you to redefine it. Her finger stabbed the hologram, scattering light. The siphon is not a drill. It is a scalpel. Use it here, and Earth's vultures lose their justification. Darian turned to the observation pane. Beyond the glass, the colony's algae vats stretched into darkness, their emerald glow faint as drowned stars. Somewhere above, in sunlit desolation, the lithium vein waited, a key to Earth's salvation and his redemption. But redemption, he was beginning to understand, was not a single thread. It was a web sticky with compromise. We would need 3 weeks, minimum. Zinnia exhaled, the sound almost human. I will make time. The lava tube exhaled decay. Darian adjusted his respirator, the scent of ancient rot seeping through its filters. 2 kilometers beneath Mare Ingenii's surface, the walls glistened with primordial minerals, their colors leached sickly by helmet lamps. Zinnia moved ahead, her suit's orange stripes the only warmth in the gloom. They had argued over the descent. Zinnia insisted on a robotic probe. Darian refused to trust machines with the siphon's calibration. Now, as his boots dislodged a shale slide, he regretted his stubbornness. The rubble whispered secrets as it fell, too deep, too dark, too late. Zinnia halted at a fissure, her lamp probing the void beyond. The chamber. Darian's wrist sensor screamed. Lithium concentration spiked off the charts, the readout's crimson pulse matching his carotid rhythm. He unshipped the siphon module, a spider-legged furnace, its belly pregnant with superconducting coils. Set the anchors here, he gestured to an outcropping. The heat must diffuse evenly or the tube's sailing. Collapses, yes, Zinnia knelt, drilling pitons into stone. Her movements were precise, mechanical. You have triple-checked the thermal buffers. It was not a question. He activated the siphon. A low thrum vibrated through his boots, the sound burrowing into molars. The first coil ignited, bathing the chamber in hellish orange. Lithium veins glowed like exposed nerves. Zinnia stepped back, faster than projected. Efficiency is not recklessness. He monitored the temperature gradient, the numbers a tightrope, 90 seconds, 100. The siphon's jaws yawned, molten rock dripping like saliva. The collapse began with a sigh. Darian heard it first, a shift in the tube's breath. He lunged as the ceiling cracked, shoving Zinnia against the wall. Rubble rained across his shoulders, his visor spiderwebbing. Darkness swallowed them. Silence.
This story continues. Subscribe to our channel, like the video, and listen to the rest.